Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you've ever wanted to know how active couples can create passive income successfully with real estate investing, then guess what? Today is the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. I promise. You know what? Because today's guests are a couple that found the formula to making real estate work by focusing on a very specific strategy. And I'm sure they're going to talk to us about that. Amanda, who's a real estate agent and also investor and an Army veteran, and Lindsey, who is a U.S. Army Special Ops commander, both have a passion for real estate and are now even investing beyond their backyard. And I'm sure that they're going to tell us a little bit about that. So I want to welcome to today's show, Lindsey Meringer and Amanda Schneider. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So we had a lot of fun, by the way, when we were just getting things started. So I'm super excited for today's conversation. And I think we were working on the camera angles, everyone. So if you're listening or running on the treadmill, make sure that you stop and see the video version of this, because we think we have the video angles down perfectly.
We're super attractive, so.
Yeah, that works.
Exactly. I mean, two amazingly attractive people. So you definitely need to watch the video version here. And they let me hang out with them, which is kind of cool.
I like it.
So listen, so you all know we've got the same 5 questions that we ask everyone, right? And so before we even get things started today, help us understand, where do you live in the United States?
So one quick alibi is I do fall under Special Operations Command, but I am not a commander. I'm enlisted. I'm not an officer. And if you talk to any Green Beret, it's an important clarification.
So right from the very start. So Lindsey, thank you very much for correcting me. Obviously not a. So there's a lot of we're good. So thank you very much for correcting me and making sure. Okay, keep me honest. That was Billy. That was on Billy. So thanks, Lindsey.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So yeah, we live in Colorado Springs. I came here about 9 years ago. I got stationed at Fort Carson with 10th Special Forces Group. And we met about 6 years ago. She's been here kind of on and off through those years, and she can kind of speak to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was also in the military, and then I was a military contractor. So I was stationed here as a military contractor, deployed back and forth. But yeah, we met at a CrossFit gym, and the rest is history.
All right, fantastic. And one thing before, well, no, I have one other question, and I have something I'd like to say. But so that is awesome. And I'd like to know from the two of you, like, what is the most positive thing, Lindsey, that's happened to you? And then Amanda, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
So a lot of our real estate strategy has been long-term. Over the past 6 years, we built our portfolio. We started to transition into medium-term, providing TDY housing, kind of the 1 to 2 month range. And then we've shifted to Airbnb in short-term. And last night, we filled the next 2.5 months with only 2 days of vacancy. And it is coming so fast and booking so solid, and just the income raise on switching to short term here in this market from long term. It's absolutely amazing looking at that booking calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's fun. Yeah. That's a lot of fun, especially when you're doing the short term model. That's amazing.
It's only been listed for 4 days.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Happy days. Well, you're gonna have to tell us a little bit more about how you make these things happen. So thank you for sharing that, Lindsey. Amanda, what about you? What's the most positive thing that's happened in the last 24 hours?
So Lindsey and I actually had COVID a few weeks ago. So we were quarantined for a few weeks. So yesterday I got my first workout in like 3 weeks. So it felt good to be back in the gym.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Yeah. And by the way, so were you, how was you have any secondary effects kind of going on? Did you notice the downtime?
No, I mean, we both lost our sense of taste and smell for a few days, but that's back and we're fine.
Neither one of us had a fever. The sense of smell, we felt bad for 2 or 3 days, and that was it. We were good to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that the two of you are feeling much better, and also too, and most importantly, really appreciate your service before we even really get into anything. So thank you very much for your service, and also for correcting me earlier, keeping me honest. So I appreciate that. And so I kind of at a really, really high level, right? I gave a little bit about your story, each of the two of you, but would love for you to share with the Going Long family more about your backstory, kind of some of the things that, I guess specifically like some of the major decisions that you've taken to get to this point in your journey. And then later on, we'll get into kind of where things are going from here.
I'm starting this one.
Okay.
So, because I think it's one of the most important things, as people listen to podcasts with us and kind of interact with us, we work so well together. And it really started in a very specific instance. So we'd met at a CrossFit gym and we were kind of back and forth a little bit. But then we were going to take this road trip through the Southwest. We went down through Arizona, out through Zion, a bunch of the parks up through Moab. And we called it our all or nothing road trip. Like, if we could get through this road trip and we felt right coming out of it, we were just going to be together. We actually got married 6 months after we met. And so that's kind of a cool side story. But on the trip, we just listened to probably 30 Bigger Pockets episodes. We listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and we spent, very little music. It was all about this entrepreneur mindset with real estate. And, one of the things that I think really bonded us on this road trip is that we were so excited. Every podcast, we'd pause it and just talk about what we were listening to and the energy that was going back and forth between us. And the 13 days, it was nonstop. It just built and built and built. And we came out of that trip not only so excited to build a life together, but build it around real estate and investing. And that in 6 years, that hasn't waned at all. It's only increased. So I think that precipice of the start of us is so important.
Yeah. And then, so the way we kind of got into real estate investing, since we've both served in the military, we had the VA home loan, which allows you to buy a home with no money down. So we started out that way. And so the first couple of years, we would live in a house, buy it with the VA home loan, not have to put any money down, live in it for 6 months to a year, and then buy the next one. So that's how we got, I think, our first 4 properties until we had, and we also house hacked. So we would have roommates, which I enjoyed when he was deployed. I had somebody to keep me company, but, so during that time, we were able to save up money and start to then have, money for down payment, money for rehab. So we would start to do like the BRRRR strategy and pull our money out. And like Lindsey said, now we're kind of transitioning to moving some of our properties to short-term rentals to really increase our cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. So a couple of different things that I'm really interested in, and I'm sure that the Going Long family wants to know, like, do either of the two of you come from a family that has real estate or investing in tangible assets as part of their strategy?
No, not at all. I grew up in a small farm town to the opposite of wealth. And, I grew up doing, which has helped now, but most of my family's in construction. And I just, I started working in, about 7 or 8 with my dad's, my stepfather's, antique business. And then around 12, I started working for a roofing company and just started building up through the trades, and just hard labor, kind of has made me who I am.
All right, cool. Amanda?
Same thing, very like blue collar family, never even realized that there was a way to build wealth other than working 40 plus hours a week. And we were actually just talking about that last night about, how your mindset and the way you were raised really kind of affects you as an adult, and can be kind of negative unless you get out of that mindset. And I was raised in a family you had to work hard to earn money, to just basically make a basic living. So it's been a journey for me to kind of get out of that mindset and realize that it's not all about like the hours you put in and, being exhausted at the end of the day. It's really about building wealth. So.
Yeah, definitely about building wealth. And I would say, once again, this is just me kind of promoting the video version, because when I asked that question, all three of us, like, do you come from families that are in real estate? All three of us were kind of like, no. I was watching the two of you, right? And you're like, no, not at all. And you know, Amanda, it's interesting. So you said that you were working to recognize that it's not just about working the 40 hours a week. Like Lindsey, it sounds like you come from a very similar background. Like for me too, like the only thing I knew is that you had to work really, really hard. And so, yeah, exactly. If you couldn't do 120, right? Because you needed like 48 hours to sleep or something like that during the week. But how much of that is that you're actually trying to change the mindset versus how much you're trying to actually keep that motor of the hard work, but recognizing like you don't have to do the 80 hours?
Well, I think it's a different application. So, you know, when I used to grind myself, you know, to those legitimately 70-hour weeks, you know, you're doing 15-hour days on a construction site. You're really just trying to pay bills, and that's all you're thinking about. And we still work just as hard. We work 7 days a week. You know, if we go up to our snowboard trip over to Breckenridge for the day or something, we're on our phones checking emails, you know, things like that. But it's all about growth now. We're doing it now with a very aggressive retirement strategy to truly just be able to go travel the world and have that be our full-time thing. So it's really the goals and intent that we're applying those hours to that I think is the most important mental transition that we've done.
And I think that's what's different about the families we were raised in. You know, society or their families, however they got their mindset, it was you work until you're 65 and then maybe you take some Social Security, but you live very meagerly so that, you know, your Social Security check will get you by. And we just both, I mean, when we met, it was like melding of the minds. Like we both had the same mindset. It was like, I do not want to work until I'm 65, and we love to travel and we just really want that freedom to be able to do it. So for us, you know, working hard, really grinding for the next 5 years, and allowing us to build that life where in 5 years, if we don't want to work, then we don't have to. We can do what we want with our time. So.
Yeah. Okay. And I love that. And then the other thing that I just think is really, really interesting, right? So that you decided that you wanted to have it was the all or nothing road trip. Like you just met at the CrossFit gym. I'm sure, you know, you've known each other, you know, before that, but most people, you know, you want to go on this cool, awesome, romantic kind of getaway and you're listening to music or you're doing whatever. But the fact that you decided that you really wanted to listen to Robert Kiyosaki, listening to podcasts that are around real estate and stuff like that, like where in the world did that come from? Because that's not something that most people would think about, right? Because I personally think it's really awesome because you were melded, but it's just, I think it's so contrarian to what most people would think when you're getting a chance to meet someone that you're both feeding your mind during the entire trip. So maybe unpack that a little bit for us to help us understand.
So it's her. So the key to life is find the right person for you. You know, she got in the car and was like, hey, I want you to listen to something. And I am pretty much always down for anything that she says. And so I was like, all right, put it on. And, you know, an hour into the book, it's just the way my mind works. The wheels started turning and I got excited. We made it through the book and then she was like, and now you should listen to this. And we went into bigger pockets and, you know, I really do. You can, you know, shout out Nick Giuliani. And you can ask him, like, I just get excited about everything, you know? So she uses that against me or for me to get me going. She just has good ideas and she puts it in front of me. And then, you know, stuff that I wouldn't normally think about. And I get super excited and then she feeds off it. And then the train's rolling. We're leaving the station.
Yes. So I had a friend several years ago, probably a year before I met Lindsey, who recommended Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so I read that. Actually, I still remember I was on vacation in Thailand, just like laying, you know, next to the beach and reading that book. And my mind was blown. Like I could not believe that, you know, you could build wealth through real estate, but then he talks about how when you own just your primary residence and that's all you have, but that's actually not even an asset. And there were so many great nuggets in that book. But so when I moved here and then met Lindsey and I knew he had a construction background, I had started to listen to Bigger Pockets and I asked him to come look at a property for me that I was considering buying as an investment. And that's kind of where it all started. Lindsey's very open-minded. So he was easy to influence.
Yeah, and I kind of have just one building thing off of that. So Yeah, I can speak for me personally. Like when I was 5, a German Shepherd tore the whole side of my face off. Everything was gone. I got a couple $100,000 for it. But the way that I grew up, I got half when I was 18, blew through it. The other half when I was 21, blew through it. In special forces, we deploy every year. We're gone constantly, but we make a lot of money. I would come back from a deployment and I would fly to Vegas and go front row to a concert, and I would just blow through it. And, because I had no idea how money worked. All I knew is that you could spend it and you could have a good time. And so the point that she made there is like, it gave you a glimpse into how money could work and what you could do with it. And I had the same reaction listening to that book. I was just so taken off guard and taken aback from it. And just want to talk about a life shift.
Yeah, it's definitely it's one of those. It doesn't, you can't be neutral after you read that book, right? You finish it and it kind of does something to you. So, and also I'll give big shouts out to Nick as well for connecting us, which we think is awesome. So this is a couple we've not had the opportunity to really talk about something that the two of you talked about in the very beginning, and this is key to your strategy, right? Because your strategy is about being able to build your own road to freedom, right? Through real estate investing. You've already talked about how you're pivoting because of things that are happening in the market, the context of the market. You're capitalizing that on already. But there are a lot of our going long family that may not be familiar with something that's like a normal language for you, which is the VA loan. You mentioned kind of what it does, but can you just help people to understand like the VA loan, what it is, who's it accessible to, and then how that tool can be used?
Sure. So the VA Home Loan, which stands for Veteran Affairs, is eligible to anyone that has served in the military. So if you're active duty, you automatically get it. If you're Guard or Reserves, you have to serve a certain amount of time before you can use it. But basically what it lets you do is buy a home with no money down because the VA is guaranteeing the loan. Where normally banks, lenders are going to want you to put down at least a certain percentage to have some equity in the house. The VA is saying we guarantee that equity. So if they do go into foreclosure or whatever, the VA's got you covered. So that's one of the hugest benefits. And the great thing about the VA home loan too is that you can actually use it twice. So they've changed the rules a little bit, but basically if you use it once, say to buy a $300,000 house and your county loan limit for the Fannie Freddie loans is $600,000, you have still another $300,000 that you can use to buy a second property. The caveat is it has to always be your primary residence. So you have to live in the property for a while before you buy the next one. But because you can do that, Lindsey and I were able to buy 4 homes under our 2 VA home loans.
Wow. So
we actually got 5.
Yeah. And then if you refinance, then you can use it one more time.
Perfect. And so we're going to have you unpack that for us as well. And I just want to just say this to the entire Going Long family when you're watching or reading or watching this or listening to it or whatever the case may be. Like right now, what Amanda is sharing and what Lindsey's going to share in just a second, like they're sharing their story. They're not giving you any advice. They're not telling you that you should do this or you can do this. Like you need to speak to the people that are the most relevant for you. They're sharing their story. So I think let's just be really clear about that. And then go ahead. I think you wanted to tell a little bit more about the VA, or I think you were maybe going into.
Just kind of a thing with the fifth too is so one important thing on kind of the time limit is, again, speak to the professionals, but a lot of people think you have to live in a house for a year, but there's so many outs within the military. And the only real doctrine to it is that you have to have the intent of moving into the property within 60 days. I think 60 or 90 days. I'm not specific on that right now, but we were able to, a couple months after, 6 months after being in a house, we just had to justify to the lender why we needed to move to the next house. So there's always, alibis that you can do. And then when you have 2 properties under the VA loan, if you refinance both of them out, you re-free up your VA loan for a single purchase. You can't use it for 2 again, but you re-free up your entire entitlement. So we did that for the home that we're in now, which is our long-term home, which is really great. So yeah, we're able to get 5 out of it. And ultimately we will be able to get 6 if she does the same thing.
which I think is going to be awesome. So, and you also you're starting to touch on it already, but I would love for you to explain to the Go Long family as well, like because earlier you mentioned that you talked about the BRRRR strategy, right? Which is something that for many of us is something that we all understand. But can you maybe walk us through what exactly that BRRRR strategy is, what it means, and why that is beneficial to helping you get to your goal of early retirement?
So BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance.
Repeat.
Repeat.
You gotta do it more than once. That's what we're trying to do here, build wealth.
So what's so great about that is, I mean, there's so many different strategies, but what's wonderful about it is you can basically pull out a lot of your money that you invested, especially if it was a house that needed a rehab, without any tax consequences. So you can pull that money out and use that money again to buy the next property. So that's the best part about it. And then just keep repeating it.
Yeah. So it's all about the value add. It really is. It's about, we've been able to do it in kind of a way that's not common for the BRRRR because we've had such high appreciation here that the appreciation has given us, we've done some light rehabs on some properties, but the appreciation here has skyrocketed. One of our zip codes was the top zip code in the country for a while. And so we've been able to get a ton of money on refinance out on the backside. Which is kind of a metric that you don't do in the upfront analysis of the property, which is important. Don't ever count on appreciation. That's just gravy on the backside.
Yes, especially when it's the type of kind of location-based appreciation, because you really don't know if someone wants to pay more for your house just because your house is where it is when it is. So great thoughts there. So, and also now this is a little bit self-serving because we're here, the Going Long podcast, and we know you're focused in a specific area, but I also happen to know, this is Nick again, it is really that you are also you're also investing in another location, which is well beyond your backyard. So the two of you are in Colorado and you are investing in a place that is in, if you want to tell us, you can tell us, and maybe help us to understand, because it's not necessarily, everybody doesn't invest for the same reasons, but maybe you can help us to understand maybe what is the this new location where the investment's taking place, and a little bit about what your experience is right now.
Yeah, so we own a triplex with partners in Pennsylvania. I can kind of speak to our specific experience. Some people may go into long distance by themselves. We were very fortunate. We have some great friends here, the Brodines, and one of their family members is very familiar with the Allentown market. And, so we were able to be pulled into that network. And she had, worked her butt off building out contractors, property managers and stuff. So we were very fortunate in being able to be pulled into that team. Kind of a caveat to the overarching concept of this. I don't care if you're investing in your own backyard, if you're investing far away, probably even more far away, but your team is everything. You have to vet them. You're gonna go through a bunch of people. You're gonna fire people. You're gonna hire multiple people, and be willing to do that is kind of another story that we can get into later. But yeah, we were able to get pulled in there, and it's been great. We got a triplex where we took on a lot of projects in Colorado Springs last year. So just financially, it didn't make sense to continue to grow there, but we are absolutely trying to get more in that market. And then we're also, Nick is he'll say that he's not a mentor of mine, but I call him a mentor. We just have a great relationship. I talk to him every day. And I really want to get into the indie market with him. Because again, I just have 100% trust with him and his wife, Diane. And so to be able to leverage into that network, and then I want to do the same for him, get him out here and be able to tie him into my network. So building those relationships can really get you into those outside your own backyard markets.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, the reason that we decided to invest in Pennsylvania was just that Colorado Springs is great for appreciation, but because our market is just exploding, it's really hard to get cash flow here. So we wanted to diversify a bit and find a market, which is still what Allentown provides, is more cash flow, and I believe in Indy as well. So that's why we decided to invest outside of our backyard. Yeah.
And just to pick up on that, and this is like fundamental, right? Because one of the things we like to teach here is really that you got to get four things in alignment. Number one, personally, you need to be crystal clear on what it is that you want this asset to provide you, whether that's appreciation, whether that is equity buildup, whether that's tax benefits, whether that is cash flow, right? I mean, because real estate can provide these types of benefits. The second thing you need to make sure is that you know the location that you want to be in. So if you want appreciation today, you're going to get that in Colorado Springs. If you're looking for cash flow, you're going to get that in Allentown, Pennsylvania, right? And then absolutely agree with what you said, Lindsey, is the third point is making sure that you have the right team in the location. Because if you don't have that, then it makes it really, really difficult to be a successful long distance investor, because then afterwards you can buy whatever asset you want. It can be a triplex, it could be a 290 unit apartment building, it could be a single family residence, it can be whatever, it can be energy equipment, whatever you want it to be. But those things have to be in place. And one of the things that I love, number one, Lindsey, the very first word out of your mouth is you said your partners. When I ask about investing long distance, you talked about your partners and you talked about their network. And then what you just added, Amanda, which was really the whole point of you looked for that because you were looking for, you personally, you knew what you all wanted, which was cash flow, and you weren't getting it there. So you went to another location with a network, with partners that were able to provide you, right? And so at the fundamental basis, that's really what the whole long distance investing is all about, right? Is to be able to leverage networks and relationships and things like that. So it's perfect. So you took us there for a little bit, but I would like to come back to Colorado Springs and some of the things that you're doing in Colorado Springs, right? So maybe tell us a little bit about the way that the two of you work together so that you're maximizing the benefit for those that you are working with, whether they're new buyers for a new property or they're people that are investing with you or whatever the case may be. Tell us a little bit about the dynamics of your team.
Mm-hmm. So specifically to how we benefit other people, or how does it benefit not also how we work together? These are kind of two different dynamics.
Well, one of you take one and the other take the other.
No, so I took your question as like, how do we work together as investors? And like, if we find a property, what are our roles? So obviously Lindsey has a construction background. Mm-hmm. And I'm a real estate agent here. So I got my license a few years ago. So we both look for deals, but obviously I'm on the MLS, where real estate agents buy and sell properties. I'm on the MLS a lot more. So I'm kind of more the deal finder, looking for opportunities, and also the one that kind of figures out and controls our finances and just determines what we can afford, et cetera, et cetera. Don't
give me the money.
Yeah. So then, once
you'll end up in Vegas or somewhere. Yeah, exactly.
So once we find a property we're interested in, we'll walk it together. And obviously Lindsey's there to really, look and kind of assess the remodel, the cost, things like that. Once we go under contract, then it's, again, he's either doing a lot of the work himself or running the subs. I'm the one designing, ordering kitchen cabinets, things like that. And then I'm usually the one that takes it. If we're doing a long-term rental, I'm usually the one that takes it from there and finds a renter.
Yep. And, what we work really well in is, we say it laughingly, but legitimately, I don't touch the money. I don't care. I don't even need to see it. I have 100% faith in where it goes. She's way more organized than me. I'm the hands-on day-to-day stuff. And we have our lanes and they cross over sometimes, but we generally just trust each other to do what we need to within our lanes. And if we need a second opinion, we reach out to each other. And then, so she kind of really covered on how we operate as a team for our own stuff. And then, we are expanding now to be able to do stuff for other people. We've been approached so many times to be property managers. People see what we do. We're pretty active on social media, but we just haven't wanted to. Honestly, basic property management, most people will tell you it's kind of a nightmare. And the return on investment isn't so much there. But what we've seen is, this will touch into a bunch of different parts of the conversation, is the short-term rentals. So partners of ours, the Weisses, they're our best friends here. And they're also just we have a competitive thing, kind of an unspoken competitive thing is we buy some properties, then all of a sudden they jump ahead of us, how many they have. But we're combining forces and we're starting a short-term, we just haven't launched marketing yet, but we started taking on clients, a short-term rental property management company. Because what we're able to provide is our network. Same thing that we were talking about, the recurring themes, right? Is I've built out a network of subs that I have a great relationship. We have a great relationship with. I work a little bit more than the day-to-day with them. But we're able to then leverage that to clients, people who want a truly hands-off experience. We handle all the client interaction, the staging, the design, the maintenance, the emergencies, everything. So we are starting to expand into something that we can provide for clients, which is exciting.
And so when you're able to identify these new opportunities, you begin to collaborate with people where you are quote unquote competing with in the same market. But I understand that it's a nice competition because you both are pushing each other to do more. But you also and at the same time you found a space for collaboration. Then if we take it back to what you were asking before, and this was kind of the point that I wanted to be able to help the Going Long family to understand, is really when you're working as a team and you really understand which lane is yours, and as much as possible, because it's almost impossible to stay out of one another's lanes, but when you know who does what and you have that underlying trust, then it allows you to be able to move forward faster. And be able to ultimately serve more people and help you get to your goals much faster, right? And it sounds exactly that is what is happening to the two of you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's the same exact thing with partners in the I say foreign just as a kind of a general term, but in out of state for us, not out of country, but we just, even within that team, before we bought the property, we laid out specific lanes for each of us and came to agreements on them, and we very rarely cross those lanes. You just have faith in those people are going to do their jobs, and it makes it a fairly effortless process.
And it gives you something to reference back to in the event someone gets out of their lane. You go back to, hey, look, this is what we agreed. This is what we said I was going to do, and this is what you were going to do, and that's what they were going to do, and blah, 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 blah. So it's definitely a way to be able to scale ultimately. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing from the short-term perspective. Help us understand also too, what are some of the dynamics that are happening in Colorado Springs that are now driving this whole demand for short-term rentals that you've seen?
Yeah, so we'll have you put a link in, and it's Your Easy B&B, YOUR Easy B&B, EASY.com. And we just found, kind of the success that we're leveraging into, and the Weisses have had a ton of success. So it's between here, the Springs and Breckenridge, and then we're going to expand also out into Crested Butte, Ouray, Telluride, a lot of the big destination mountain towns. And it's just about the diversification for us in the market. Prices, as Amanda mentioned earlier, have skyrocketed so much that, people have that built-in metric of hoping for 1%, the 1% market rate. It seems like a good return. You're probably getting not even like a third of a percent. If you're getting a return. Yeah. If you're cash flow neutral on it. And, to do that, you're very generous on your maintenance and your CapEx and stuff, the percentages that you're using. So we just had to shift. And as we've done this, it has been great. We've kind of used ourselves as the test, the test dummies for a lot of this, building out what does a good listing look like? What do good pictures look like? What are some amenities within a property that, create more bookings, that, the little nuanced things that make a manager different than what you would do yourself, not an expert like Billy, but, so your general person. Because a lot of people do, think that they can do a lot of these things themselves, and they can, but there's a lot of times where bringing in someone with experience is beneficial. So, yeah.
And I mean, I think you were also kind of asking specifically maybe about what is bringing people to Colorado Springs. But Colorado Springs, I mean, for us, we've always loved it here. Denver is obviously Denver, and everyone knows Denver, but I mean, we're closer to the mountains than Denver. You drive 15 minutes from our house and you're in the mountains. So Colorado Springs has been kind of a hidden gem, and I think people are finally realizing how much there is to do here. We made some list. Do you remember what it was? It was top 10 destinations worldwide.
Emerging destinations.
Colorado Springs was one of them this year, so that was awesome. But we have a huge military community here because we have 4 different military bases. So that is, and I mean, those are never going away. We have the Air Force Academy in Fort Carson, which is huge. Amazon has a big plant here now, a distribution plant. It's several million square feet. So, I mean, there's a lot of industry coming here. And so we just have a huge influx of people. I mean, we just, like I said, I'm an agent and we just cannot keep up with the demand. So, yeah.
I guess that's a pretty good thing, right?
It is good. Especially having bought properties several years ago, we're actually, the very first property we ever bought, we put it on the market this weekend and we're getting a nice return. We had 17 offers, like several $1,000s over asking, appraisal gaps. Like that's what our market is right now. It's insane.
I was gonna say that sounds like Northern California.
Scary, honestly.
Yeah. What'd you say, Billy?
It sounds like Northern California to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting
very
there,
similar.
I feel like.
Yeah. So one of the other things, because you mentioned also too, just passively investing with other people, and I think this is something I do want to. Because sometimes people, they have this thing where I'm either going to be an active investor, like I'm just going to do everything myself, or I'm just going to be a passive investor. And you've mentioned it, right? Networks, relationships, partners. You talked a little bit about why you decided to invest with people in another place, but fundamentally that can be a big shift for people because you're ultimately giving up control again. So maybe if you could talk to a little bit to that, like how you got comfortable with, or what that process looked like to say, okay, we're not going to own these hands-on, we're going to invest through and with other people.
Yeah.
Well, first, whoever coined the phrase passive investment for real estate, I hate that person. There's definitely a mechanism that it can be, as what we're trying to do with your Easy B&B. We are making a truly passive product, but even within that, you're still going to have to answer questions as maintenance and emergencies come up. But for us, it's fairly active, in kind of the way that we have our local company designed. But in Pennsylvania, it is fairly passive. There's some administrative functions we tie into, but we really have invested in that team there that they run the day to day.
I think it's just, you were asking how we can, because I'm very type A, and even like when we first started, especially when we were starting to do like remodels and stuff, I mean, I would ask Lindsey like every day, like, did this contractor do what they were supposed to do? And I mean, it started to create tension because that wasn't my lane, but I'm so type A that I need to know all the information.
Which is kind of the point of my question, right? Because when you're used to being hands-on, like, that you can control what's happening, but the two of you made a fundamental shift to say, okay, we're going to keep being hands-on. And at the same time, we're going to now do some investing. We're just going to make our money go away and come back with more friends. We're going to literally give that responsibility to someone else in order to make our capital grow. And sometimes people get stuck because they're like, well, I just love the control and I love being able to do this. But in the same way earlier that Lindsey was positively influenced by the things, Amanda, that you were saying, it may sound like this time that Lindsey was influencing on, hey, listen, let's give this to the network and allow them to do it. And even though I know, Amanda, you're going to want to know everything all the time, like this part of our capital is going to go, we're going to give them that responsibility.
Right.
So yes and no, kind of. So it really comes down to the difference between local market and not your local market. It's a problem that I have here because I have the experience that I do is with construction. Yeah. I've had to fire so many people, and my stress level has gone through the roof so often over the past couple of years because I can pull permits for my own residence, for my own primary residence, but I can't for investment properties. So I've been hamstrung by, these contractors that don't work to my standard. They don't work to my timeline. They don't work to my quality standard. And so I end up just forcing myself into the job and start working myself. And you'll hear a lot of people say that's why they only invest out of market, because they have that personality, and being out of market just takes that ability away from you. So I have no stress with Pennsylvania because I know I can't do anything, and I accept that, and she's had a big influence on me here. Because she questions me a lot. It's like, babe, is this really worth your time to go do this, to go drive and fix this little thing? And I've gotten a lot better, I personally think. I guess she would be the real person to tell me. But in just sending the plumber, sending someone to go patch something. And because, especially as we're building this business now, there's so much administrative functions that I'm, getting tied into and some stuff that I can rely on my network a little bit more to do those things. So yeah, there's definitely a regional dynamic to it.
I personally would say it comes down to two things: surrounding yourself with people that you trust and just knowing that you can trust them. And then also experience, because I can't do everything. And when I tried, I was exhausted and nothing was getting done to the standard that it should. So I basically just had to tell myself, like, okay, we're just going to try this. We're going to put our trust in this person. And if it doesn't work, then maybe we won't do this again, or we'll find ways to tweak it. But just, a different person, but just trying it and knowing that, because we've had, especially these couple remodels, we've had a lot of ups and downs, and we've found a way to get by every single one. So there's always a solution. It's just finding that. And so that kind of just gave me the confidence to know I don't have to be involved in everything.
Yeah, no, and this, I think, comes back once again to the dynamics of your team, right? And sometimes, Lindsey, even though your standard is super, super high, is it really worth you driving 2.5 hours to go do something at 100% when the person that could have gone there is probably going to do it at 95%, and you've just saved yourself 2 hours? And also to what Amanda is talking about. I mean, it's one of those things where you've got to kind of figure out there's a part of control that you relinquish. I know for me, Lindsey, it's one of the things you said too. Like, probably one of the best things that ever happened to me is after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like, what I read in the book, I couldn't find that property here in Barcelona, because had I found that property in Barcelona, I'm similar to what Amanda was saying earlier. Like, I like control. I would have probably been at the property all day, every day, and my portfolio would not have had the opportunity to expand to the way that it's done, because now I focus more on the process instead of the property. Right. And had I had that property in my backyard, this guy would probably have been going over to that property much more frequently than needed. But anyway, so these are really good things for us to be sharing with the Going Long family, and I know that they are enjoying it. And I guess the thing is, we're going to get into the Going Long final 3. Mm-hmm. Cool. But before we do that, I do want the two of you to kind of tell us, help us understand what's your business looking like. If we take a look forward, kind of what's on the horizon here the next 24, 36 months.
Mm-hmm. You want me to start? Okay. Well, like we kind of already alluded to, we're transitioning a lot of our properties to Airbnb and short-term rentals. Mm-hmm. And so with that extra cash flow, because it's going to be significant compared to what we were getting for long-term rentals, we want to expand into some of the mountain towns, like Lindsey said, like some of the destination places, and get some Airbnbs there. We're a little worried about what's going on in the market, just because things are so crazy and people are paying so much over on houses here. So I think our plan is to kind of see how we can use our current inventory to do more for us, rather than continue to buy at such high prices here. So if you add anything to that.
Yeah. So just kind of shifting what we're doing within our own company. And I'm finally going to get licensed as a general contractor here. I passed my exam. I'm submitting all the paperwork for licensing so that I can, I know we talked about trying to give up control, but I'm doing things to take it on a little bit more, but there's times that it's just the right answer. It really is. It's part of being a team, because I can have the work capacity for doing some of it. It's really going to be for our own stuff. I'm not really taking on clients. So it falls within our business profile. And then other than that, it's full-time easy B&B. We are so excited. Just working with our best friends is amazing. Just that every day we're excited and kind of bouncing back and forth, and the support that we have for each other, and just building a business is fun. As we built our own, it was really fun, and it's constantly growing, and that's exciting. But the excitement of the fresh business now, and having it be a little different, is really exciting.
Awesome. So the future looks bright. There's lots of, you're going to do some change of use, which is, definitely a strategy that you can take advantage of in a positive way. And being able to collaborate with friends and colleagues is something that is fun. And you already have a blueprint for how it works. So it's just a matter of now adapting it and moving into this new space together. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of happy days moving forward. So. But it is time for us to get to the Going Long Final 3. But the thing is, I never asked the Going Long Final 3 unless you tell me that you're ready. So are you ready?
We are
ready.
All right, perfect. So here we go. So we are going to ask the two of you. I want to know, because I started over there and you told us where you are in Colorado, and now I want to bring it back this way to where I am in Europe. And the two of you love to travel, so I don't want to tie you down to one location. I'd like to know, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
So for me, it's one of two. It's Italy as a country, but then Rome or Florence. It's the history and the architecture, being able to walk on roads that people walked on thousands of years ago, and you can still see the tracks in the cobblestone. And my mind is just, it's amazing over there. I definitely want to live there for a while.
So I'm going to make you choose Rome or Florence.
Yeah, Rome. I'll choose Rome. Just the true history, specific to that city in terms of world dynamics at that time is just, you can't compare to it.
All right, awesome. So another vote for Rome.
Yep.
Amanda?
Mine would be Berlin. I love Germany. I was stationed there in the military, and then after I got out of the military, I went back for a few months and just lived there. I went to a language school. My last name is Schneider, which is German, so it's part of my heritage. So definitely Berlin.
All right, awesome. So that sounds good. One for Rome, one for Berlin. And so here's the thing. I would love to know, because I always say that very successful people, successful businesses, they typically, during that whole time, make one mistake, only one, along their road to success. Well, hang on a sec. I get that every single time I get that wrong. It's like, okay, no, I tell myself and I get it wrong every time. Kind of a joke. Anyway, so really successful people, companies tend to make lots of mistakes, right? Learning opportunities, whatever you want to call them. And realize that it's not the mistake, it's the lesson that you learn from the mistake. So help us understand, what is the lesson that you would take away from one of your learning opportunities that would really be useful and helpful to the Going Long family?
So for me, it's believing in myself. I am very confident. And I think a mistake that I made is I take everything everyone says to heart. I think people who say they don't care what people think are wrong. They're missing out on great opportunities. You have a incredible opportunity for growth. So I listen to everything, positive, negative, and I bounce it off myself, my own analysis of myself. And do I feel it's correct? If I don't, I'll run it off Amanda. But I have the tendency to take on a lot, to really overload myself. And I've had people, people that I respect, kind of get at me for taking on too much. And I let it really get to me. And I started to doubt myself and doubt my path and what I was doing. And I realized that was wrong. Even among entrepreneurs, I have a capacity for work that I personally believe is not common. And I thrive in that world. If I do something and it's not something I end up running forward with, it's still another tool in my toolbox. I can fall back on it or just pin it for a later time. But that self-doubt that I let come into me when I started to get questioned about, all the things I was taking on, I went through a couple week period where it was a little rough for me mentally. And finally, I don't remember what switched me back on, but I was like, no, this is my wheelhouse. And I am pushing myself like this and taking all this on is absolutely the right answer. And I came out of that even more, focus would be kind of a weird term for how all over the place I can be, but just motivated and just complete confidence in what I'm doing. And that path for me is correct.
All right, cool. So don't doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Amanda?
Okay, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to.
Yeah, go right ahead. Go ahead.
We were talking about this earlier, but I think one of the biggest things that we learned is that separating friendship from business, because we've had, like Lindsey said, he's had to fire a lot of contractors or subs, and we're very much people. Like, we love being around people. We love inviting people over for dinner, taking them out to eat. And so every contractor that we had been using, we basically fell in love with them and they became our friends, but we learned that it was hurting our business because they were then not showing up on time or being like, oh, hey, can I come do this, 3 days later? And And we were allowing it because they were our friends. And they're like, oh, but he's such a nice guy. And so we've really made the conscious effort to make sure that our expectations are documented and given to that person, and especially with timelines and things like that, and trying to separate our friendship.
Business is business.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is one of the, and I love that you came back to say that again, which is one of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. Like when things aren't working, you go back to that what says I was going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, which is great. So it sounds like that is a lesson that has been something that's important to the two of you, and really appreciate you also too, Amanda, sharing that lesson with us. So being able to appropriately separate what is business from what is friendship. And just last of the Going Long Final Three, which is helping us to understand what book would you recommend to the Going Long Final Three? Since Lindsey, you went first last time, Amanda, you get to go first this time.
Okay. I tried to think of one that maybe people hadn't heard of before, and it's called Hug Your Customers. I can't think, it's Jack somebody, I can't remember his last name, but what I love about it is, I mean, he's a salesperson. He works in a clothing store for a really long time, but he just really talks about the importance of relationships and treating your customers just with respect and, always following up with them. And for me as a real estate agent, like that was such great knowledge to just remember. I've always been pretty good at customer service, but just knowing that you should always, follow up with a phone call out of the blue, things like that. And I think even as investors, we can take that into that sphere as well. Like, how do you treat your contractors? If you're working with another investor or you're buying properties from someone, like how can you make them feel appreciated?
Awesome. Hug your customers. And Lindsey?
Yeah, I got to cheat a little bit because I have two. So the most important book ever written is The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan for any entrepreneur. I've been through it a couple times. It's only an 8-hour audiobook. You can do it in a day when you just need to reset. And that has been truly life-changing for me. But then also for me, I'm a big motivational speech person. So if you go on Spotify, Tom Bilyeu, Bilyeu, has a playlist called A Life Worth Remembering. If you search that on Spotify, and I can email you the link for you to post. And then within that playlist, there is a section called One Decision Away. And the whole playlist is amazing. I work out to it. I hike to it. I just listen to it constantly. But One Decision Away is all about you are in control of everything in your life, even things that seem like you can't control them. How you react to them, you make that specific decision. So, I think that is vital as someone grows, is that self-analysis and knowing that you are in control of things.
So the one thing and one reason. One decision away. Sorry, one decision away.
One decision away. Yeah.
All right. We'll have to. Time by Lou. All right. Perfect. So, it is amazing, like how fast this time went by. Like it just flew. Like it literally flew by. And I'm thinking to myself, wow. You know what? We started out talking about CrossFit, hanging out in the gym, then going on this amazing trip, the all or nothing road trip, and then figuring out that 6 months later, the two of you are going to get married and have this wonderful connection, right? In terms of being able to be on the same page, at the same time understanding that you wanted something which was this early retirement that you're both focused on. Each understands which lane you're going to be in order to make sure that you're moving forward faster. You understood the importance and still understand the importance of partnerships, relationships, even to the point that you've trusted your own part of your dreams to people that are going long in a market or location that is not yours. At the same time, you're also building new collaborations with friends of yours, building businesses, and you've even gotten clear on what is friendship and what is business, and being able to maintain those things and moving forward. And you're doing this as an amazing couple. And so I know that I want to keep talking to you forever. And there are so many people that have been watching us and listening to us. They're like, yeah, just get to the point. I know you talked about the Easy B&B and stuff like that earlier, but like, how can we get in touch with Lindsey and Amanda? Like, we really need to understand this. So help us understand, what is the best way for the Going Long family to get in touch with the two of you?
Well, we have a lot of ways you can get in touch with us, but I have a real estate agent website. It is theveteranrealtor.com. And then Lindsey and I have a website, amalinvestments.com, and that's the first three letters of our first name. So AMALIN investments.com. So you can, shoot us a message there. There's an email on those websites as well.
Yeah. And then if you're local in the Springs, I encourage you to go to youreasybnb.com. And then I'm pretty active on social media. I'm a child at heart. So my Instagram is Calvin J. Hobbs, big Calvin Hobbs fan. And then just my name on Facebook, Lindsey Meringer. And I'm pretty active on there with, projects that we have going on. I'm usually posting something about, some kind of construction thing, helping people, just how to hang a door, or, kind of do some stuff like that. So if any of that interests you, reach out.
I forgot to add, we also are hosting local meetups, monthly meetups. So if you are in the Colorado Springs area, please, go to one of those websites, shoot us an email. It's the first Friday of every month. So it's for anyone that's interested in investing.
Yeah.
Awesome. And because you've given so many ways to get in touch with you, we're going to make sure that everything is in the show notes, right? We'll make sure everything's in the show notes. And one of the things I always ask the Going Long family, like when you reach out to Amanda, when you reach out to Lindsey, or to the two of them, like definitely let them know that you were watching or heard them here on the Going Long podcast. Like that helps them just to know, hey, cool. We're glad that we met. Or when you show up at their meetup because you're living outside of Colorado Springs or in Colorado Springs, or you just want to reach out to them from wherever. I would like to personally thank the two of you. Lindsey, thank you very much. And Amanda, thank you very much for joining me, for investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family in today's conversation. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure.
It was really fun. Thank you so much.
All right. Awesome. Just a couple words really quickly for the Going Long family. I want to thank you once again for investing your time with me, with Amanda, with Lindsey today. I mean, they left so much value. They really, really helped you to understand the different things that they're working, how they're working together, working with other people, partnerships, collaborations, transitioning from what they're doing long-term to short-term, and really a lot of value that was added. So you know what? Take today's episode and share it with at least 2 to 3 other people, because that way you have the positive opportunity to make a positive impact on at least 2 to 3 other lives. And you can be that person. So take advantage of that. Share today's episode with them. At the same time, take just a couple seconds to leave a review for today's conversation. Leave a review for the show. Really would like to know, what did you love about today's conversation? What would you like to hear next time? Et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things is I go through every single one of the reviews. Literally I read them, because I want to know what it is that you like about the show, what you like about the conversations, what you like about the guests. And I know that both Lindsey as well as Amanda would like to know as well. So take a couple seconds to leave an honest review. And I'm going to be waiting for you here for the very next conversation. And until then, I want you to go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.